Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Monica Bermudez. I'm an intuitive energy healer, and I am back for another week of love wisdom via Facebook Live, or if you're watching this, my YouTube channel. And in this message, I want to share about expectation versus divine truth. And there's been so much energy going around expectations and what is divine truth. And I want to just briefly get into that in this video because I am energetically and intuitive feeling that because the energies are all over the place and chaotic, that we become aware of the situation in us and offer some form of healing for your own awareness as we navigate in these new energies that are now coming into Earth. So speaking of energies, I'll just talk briefly of some astrological energy forecast points. And I usually interweave some of this in some of my messages because I feel that just like the planets, other solar planets in our galaxy and throughout, do influence us as individuals. They influence this planet Earth. And just like they influence us, we also influence them. So all the shift and energy upgrades that we're going through is also affecting the other planets in a good way. So it is important to reach out to as many people as possible to help them out with these love wisdom messages that I share on Facebook Live or my YouTube channels on a weekly basis. And they're based out of love. They're based out of my own heart wisdom in what I receive intuitively, what I'm feeling with the collective energy at the moment. So they form as some form of inspiration. So this week we are in the midst of Mercury retrograde. And Mercury is the planet of communication. So when it's in retrograde, it is in reverse. That means that we go within ourselves and we reflect, reevaluate, reassess. We reassess every worth in us. You know, our paths from where we come from and where we're heading. And so every time there is a Mercury retrograde, it's the universe giving us an opportunity to have a bit of a reset. So we should take advantage of these opportunities because they serve as a mini pause that sometimes we accelerate and move forward so fast that we forget to pause and take a break and really reflect on everything in our whole life before, what lessons we learned from that, and what we take as those lessons to be the building blocks for our new future. And we do it all being present and in the now. And so while we're in this Mercury retrograde, which is going to last for the next 3 weeks or so, next week is a new moon energy, and it will be within this Mercury retrograde. And there's some major planets at play. And that's Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, and others. I won't get into those details. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it just interweaves with the message that I want to share in this video with you in regards to expectations and divine truth. So with expectations, what expectations are you setting for yourself? These are some of the questions to really think about and reflect on. And when it comes to expectation, are we holding certain expectations in our relationships? And are those expectations influenced by others? In other words, is this an influence or an expectation of not being alone? Or maybe it's a little bit of both. So when it comes to expectation, to me, it just sounds very rigid. It just sounds inflexible and just not fluid and rigid. And it just sounds boring. And don't get me wrong, I was one also who always had held, certain expectations. But what happens with expectation, and this is something that I've learned myself, and this is why I'm sharing this message with you, is that it sets you up for a heartbreak. And so that's why it is important to become aware of expectations and learn how to let go. Because when it comes to expectation, there is a form of attachment. So if we have this expectation that we don't want to be alone, then we get so attached to just almost being in a desperate mode to just jump into any form of relationship without taking the time to really reevaluate. And we end up ignoring certain red flags that relationship may be showing us. Or there is an expectation of some competition with someone else. So which all of this to me is a form of separation. It's an old pattern from the old structures of the energies. And I am just now intuitively getting and understanding why my guys want to share this about the expectation. It's an old energy from the old matrix of Earth, old energy. And this is what's kept us separated for so long. Because in a way, competition, is part of a separation. When we start to compare each other and say, I can do better than the other. But what we should really be doing is saying, how can I improve? So looking at yourself instead with your own divine truth. So when it comes to expectation, we go away from being in this moment of now, the now present. And it pulls us away from being the authentic self of who we really are in our own divine truth. Divine truth is the way forward when it comes to this new energy of unity and coming together in collaboration with one another. And it is a way in which the tribes will come together. Certain different tribes will start to merge and come together. And the energy for this month will bring in more of that clarity, because we'll be spending most of our time in this reflection mode during this Mercury retrograde. So I was playing around with certain terminologies, and the one thing that I was getting was this dynamic expectation, which to me is another form of divine truth, another terminology for it. So what does divine truth really mean? Well, to me, it's your authentic soul truth of who you are. And it's that soul truth that is connected to your own sacred heart. It is your own wisdom within your own heart. And that is your own source connection, your own I am presence that is in each and every one of us. So when it comes to being in the divine truth, we are within the flow of the universe, so energy. The divine feminine energy that is building its roots, foundations, and structures into this new earth energy upgrades that we're going through. And things are accelerating, which means that manifestation and creation have increased exponentially. So what does that mean, that manifestation has increased? It just means that your own power of being able to recreate your own reality is increasing more so than ever. So it is easy for each of us to fall into the trap of being a victim. You know, what I mean by that is that being stuck in the past, being stuck about some painful path in our life, traumatic event that we had in our relationship or in other situations. But what is the best thing for you to do is to fall into the energy of the creative force, which is now has increased on this planet. So give your chance during this Mercury retrograde to really integrate with that creative force. And think of creative things to get out of certain situations that no longer serve you. So in other words, rebuilding and restructuring that new reality for you. So it's interesting because I've been seeing so many science fiction shows, and they all now are talking about the multiverse, multi-universe. So scientifically speaking, these scientists are discovering and finding that there are multiple universes, or the multiverse. And so in each one of those, there's a different form of reality. So it just means that what we see around us too is all just an illusion. An expectation is a form of a false illusion. And it forms these false possibilities. So my point is to let go and just step into the more of this divine truth and be an artist of your own new reality that you want to paint, visualize, and recreate on your own canvas of art. So do ask yourself this question. Are you holding any expectations at this time in your life? Are you holding any expectations for others? And if you are, what are they? Are you holding an expectation for yourself? Are you holding certain expectations for your love life? And then refocus that. Refocus yourself into the now and be present. Learn from that and just step into your own divine soul truth. And ask your soul, what is my divine truth? Ask yourself the question. We all have our own inner guides, our own higher self of truth that provides us the guidance that we need here on earth. And we are always learning. We're learning from each other. We're learning from ourselves and the things that we choose, in the relationships that we find ourselves in. But the important thing is that we're learning and expanding in that vibrational energy. The key is being in creation, being creative, embracing the energy of this manifestation and the divine energy flow. And pay attention when you do fall back into this trap of this victimhood. Because when we get so attached to a certain expectation, that also brings us into this victim energy when things do not pan out the way we expect them to. So in a way, it's wanting to just be in complete control And sometimes when they don't work out, we end up in this huge path of frustration and anger, depression, or heartbreak. So look at the example of 2020 that we just went into. Speaking of control, everybody had so much expectation of what 2020 was going to be like. But then what happened was that the pandemic taught us that we had to let go of those expectations and just loosen the grips and set yourself free and to be into this divine flow. You know, as we were forced to be in these quarantine states and social distancing, and we still kind of are in some places, that it keeps coming back because it's also teaching us about this whole thing with expectation. That sometimes we have to just let go and just trust where the universe is taking us on this path of our own divine truth, of our own soul essence, our own I am presence in us. So that is the message that I want to share with you. And that is what I'm feeling that my guides wanted to share with you, which is why I wanted to talk about expectation versus divine truth. I hope that it's been helpful, healing, uplifting, inspirational for you. Please feel free to drop in your comments. Thank you for watching and for listening. And I look forward to connecting with you in the next Love Wisdom. And those on Facebook or even on my YouTube channel, I invite you to connect via my Facebook group. If you're not in my group already, just go to the link in the description if you're on YouTube. And for my Facebook group members, please feel free to invite others who can also benefit from all of these messages in healing. And that is something that we all always need in some shape or form. And now is the time to do that. Now is time for you to set yourself free and get the support you need. There's no reason for you to do things alone. And so I welcome any comments you may have. Feel free to connect with me at any time, any point. And I will see you in the next Love Wisdom video. Sending you so much love.